And the first song that played was Free Ride. First song that played on the cassette. I said, this guy sounds like he's got some other stuff in there too. We listened to more songs. They were all good songs. This guy was a great songwriter and an entertainer, it turned out, and a great singer. Played multi-instruments. His name was Dan Hartman. So we added Dan Hartman to the band for that grouping. It became part of the group. And one of the big songs that Dan wrote on the They Only Come Out at Night album was a song called Queen of My Dreams. Was it on that one or was it on the next one, Shock Treatment? I'm not sure which one of the two it was on. But it was called Queen of My Dreams, and we used to play it, and it was kind of a fun rock song to play. Then the next thing you know, we heard Dan Hartman was dating Freddie Mercury. We went, oh, Queen of My Dreams. I'm not sure if we're as apt to play that song now.
Play right now.
Yeah, but at any rate, we went on. I went on, and my career went on. A friend of mine was called up one day and said, I got this band called Blue Angel, and they just got dropped by the record company, and we'd like you to produce a demo for them and see if they can get their record deal back. So I produced a demo for Blue Angel, and sure enough, we sent it over to the record company, and the record company said, no, we don't, not going to sign Blue Angel, but we liked their lead singer. Well, the lead singer for Blue Angel turned out to be Cyndi Lauper. So in effect, I got Cyndi Lauper's career started, and then I went out and played with her for about a year on the road, too. We did a great live concert, I believe it's on video, live in Paris. Really cool. She had a great band. She was great. And then another story in a similar mode, a guy walked into our office. I had a manager in California, and a guy walked into the office, and he said, I'm managing this guy. He's on the Dr. Demento show regularly. And we want to do a single. Well, it turns out my manager at that time wrote the song I Love Rock and Roll. He was one of the writers of I Love Rock and Roll. And in those days, to do a parody version of a song, you had to ask permission from the original songwriter to do the song. So he went in and he said, the guy wants to do I Love Rock and Roll. He's going to call it I Love Rocky Road. The guy was Weird Al Yankovic. So when I grew up, my folks had a lot of Spike Jones records and things like that, and somewhere in my head I knew that a guy called a novelty artist, when they're a hit, when they make it, they don't have any competition. There's not like 4 or 5 novelty artists out there at the same time. There's only one at a time. So I said, this guy sounds good. If he's got more songs like that, let's do a whole album. I don't want to just do a single with this guy. This could be really good, really big. So it turns out he had tons of songs. Weird Al Yankovic had a lot of songs, and we went ahead and on the first album did that song, but we also did Eat It, Eat It. Number 1, we did Who's Fat? Boom, 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 boom. That's the one where he busts out all the zippers and stuff. In fact, Michael Jackson liked the fact that he was making hits with his songs so much. Michael's kind of a quirky guy. And he said, this Weird Al is right down my alley. So he liked Weird Al a lot. He'd call Weird Al. Al said you never know when he'd call. He'd middle of the night, late at night sometimes. Hi, Al, it's Michael. And Al said he could just picture him sitting there with that monkey on his knee. And the whole thing makes sense. You know, Weird Al and the monkey and the whole thing. In fact, Michael liked Al so much that for Who's Fat, he actually allowed us to use Quincy Jones, his producer, his actual programs for the keyboards and stuff. So we were using real Quincy Jones programs and stuff on that record, Who's Fat. And I went ahead and produced 6 albums. The first 6 records for Weird Al, the first 6, we won 2 Grammys with Weird Al. One for the best single one year, and one for the best comedy album one year. And had a lot of success there. It was great. But the problem was, I had a good production career up to that point. And then all of a sudden I became known as a novelty producer. That kind of puts the nails in your coffin if you're a producer all of a sudden. So that wasn't great. But loved Al, still love Al. He's a great guy, great performer. And we had a huge success with Weird Al. Obviously, over the years, I was able to start my own career. Our first album was called All American Boy, which is why I started with that little tune. And on All American Boy, we had a huge hit. When I first took home was a warm spring night at the old town hall. It was a group called the Jerkers, they were laying it down. You know they were gonna lose that funky sound. Rock and roll, hoochie coo. Lordy mama, light my fuse. Rock and roll, hoochie coo. Chuck on out and spread the news. Yeah. In my case, I like to say the good news is the news we were spreading. And like I said, I'm not going to go much far. I could tell stories and stories and stories, but I'm not going to do it too crazy today. The point, we're here so that you guys can ask questions. If you guys got any questions or anything, we do have a moderator over here. I see him walking this way. Coming back. And that's his job. I haven't heard him do this yet, so we're all new at this. Yes, sir.
I'll just yell it out. When you did your show on the first night, I yelled out, I was in the front row, loosen up your grip.
Loosen up your grip.
It's a slow.
Yeah, and I but I haven't played that in so long. I'd have to remember it again. But I love that kind of stuff. In fact, the new guys I have in my band and I have been discussing doing some of those songs. Some of the song Hold, I love that song Hold a lot. And some of the more, little less hard rock stuff. So we're going to try to incorporate more of that stuff as we go along now.
Well, if you do have a question while I set the t-shirt down, I just dropped back in place. I apologize.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to remind you guys, we do have these Caribbean colors. Do any of the girls here have those Caribbean colors on back there? We have greens and yellows and pinks and all kinds of Rick Derringer shirts and Caribbean colors and some CDs at the merch table. My wife and I decided at the Beatles' 50th anniversary that we wanted to do some Beatles songs in honor of that 50th anniversary. So we did our favorite Beatles songs, and I think that's at the merch table. Rick and Jenda do the Beatles. And it's pretty cool. Our version of our favorites.
Lots to choose from there, that's for sure.
Yeah, shirts and CDs. What else?
Yeah,
What else is
yeah,
it?
exactly. Well, if anybody does have a question, feel free to line up at this microphone here.
I'm always the first one.
There you go. And if you've been here before, you kind of know the drill. Just state your name, where you're from, and if you can get right to the question, because we do have limited time. So.
Hi, Larry Z from Connecticut.
How you doing,
Good to
Larry?
meet you. My very first rock concert I ever went to, World Series of Rock, Free River Stadium, summer of '75, and I know Johnny was on the bill. Were you there?
What year was it?
'75.
No. I was out playing with Edgar, probably in '75, probably with the Edgar Winter Group.
Maybe it was Edgar that was on the bill.
Maybe.
If it was Edgar, then I was there.
You still in touch with Weird Al?
Yeah.
If I got lyrics to you, would you hand it to him?
No. He doesn't take them. I mean, I'm not saying that to be angry or weird or anything. He won't take them. He calls other people's ideas for novelties one-joke songs, is what he says. He actually takes a lyric of a hit song and he takes all the nouns out, first of all, literally does this, and then starts right there. Well, what can I do to fill in and make this thing funny? Because he wants the whole song funny.
Got it. All right, thanks a lot.
And you're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Hey Rick, Tim from Sydney, Australia.
How you doing?
Fantastic. On your Guitars and Women album, you had Rick Nielsen from Trick Trick wrote 2 songs for that. How did that come about?
Oh, well, traveling around, I got to hear Cheap Trick in the clubs before they were recorded, before people recorded them. And they were certainly an interesting band, fun band, and I thought they were cool. So I became friends and knew them. And when it came time to do that album, we just reached out to a couple other people, and he was one of them. And he contributed a couple tunes.
Oh, that's really cool. Because Need a Little Girl Like You was the first song I ever
I
heard.
need a
so
little girl like you.
That's a great song.
But the thing is, every time I said, I need a little girl like you, I pictured like, how small is little? I'm good. But at any rate, there you go.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Owen from Calgary, Canada.
Hey.
Hi, I just got All American Boy on SACD, a quad mix. And was that quad mix done at the time, or was it created after the fact?
The quad mix was after the fact, and we did stereo. We did stereo. And quad was kind of a gimmick.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how it sounds. It probably is cool.
Well, Teenage Queen, it's a different mix.
Totally different.
It sounds different than what I'm used to. The first time I put it on, I thought, wow.
Yeah,
it's
so
good.
some people, and it bugs me in some ways. You put something on a big label, like that was a big, Columbia in general was the main label, and all of a sudden they take over, and behind the scenes people start taking your masters and doing things, and you have no control. You lose control in those big situations. That's why in the future, right now, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be writing songs. We've started doing it already. I just put up a new site on Patreon.com. And what I plan to do is not only release personal videos and things that people might find interesting, but I plan to do all my new songs. I'm going to release them with a video at Patreon and not YouTube. In other words, I want to control it because YouTube, if you dial up Rick Derringer on YouTube, you get thousands of a list of thousands, and if I punch one of them, the first thing that pops up is a commercial. And so somebody's making money from that thing, but they won't let me monetize my own stuff on there, which is like screwy. So I'm trying actually to pull down as many from YouTube as I can, and all my future original new stuff, which we've already started doing. We've got a couple new ones up there already. I'm going to release through Patreon. So if you guys, if you go to rickderringer.com, up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a gold button. And you push on that gold button, and it takes you right to my Patreon site, where I explain, there's a video there where I talk to you, and explain what we're trying to do, how we've been cheated out of money and stuff, and and we're trying to fix it. So, and it's a more personal situation. You can actually communicate with me back and forth. All the people on Patreon can communicate straight with me, and I respond. So it's kind of cool. And we'll put up things like guitar lessons. We will stream concerts, all kinds of stuff. And once they are there, they become downloadable whenever you want, anytime. So that's for $10 a month. Cheap.
Yeah. It's a bargain. Well worth it too.
Thank you.
Our friend from New Mexico. How are you?
How you doing, Rick? Scott from New Mexico.
I'm doing good, Scott.
Yeah, my question is, I want to say that song Jump. I absolutely love that song, and it gives me chills when I listen to the guitar work in it. And I really enjoyed your storytelling so far, and if you want to go to the Schooner Bar later and continue it, that's fine. And also, if you want to do an acoustic session of Jump right now, feel free.
I'm not going to play that whole song, but I know the one you're talking about. Some of these songs, you know. I love them too, but as you get older, your memory becomes a little less valid than it was at one time. So I have to go back and learn them again myself. And I haven't been playing that much lately, so I won't play the whole song. But I love that one too. I like that one too.
Love it. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
When you do go back to relearn something, do you just pop on the vinyl, or do you go to
I pop
music
on
sheets, or
the quickest thing, YouTube.
Yep.
YouTube. Sit through a commercial, pay somebody, and listen to my song. Or YouTube or iTunes.
right?
iTunes. Sometimes I have to buy my own song, 99 cents. Whatever you have to do.
You go from there. Yes, sir.
Hi, Rick Henry from Sarasota. Great admirer of all your work. Also interested in your studio work. How did you, for example, end up on side 4 of Something Anything with Todd?
Well, Todd and I have been friends for many years. He was a neighbor when I was in Manhattan. When I lived in Manhattan, he was a neighbor of mine. I hesitate. His daughter, I won't go there. Liv Tyler was actually conceived in my bed, strangely enough. I won't go there. We won't dwell on that whole incident. That has a lot of that story goes in a lot of directions. We don't want to go there.
It really does.
But we were close friends over the years, and I love Todd. I love his work, and I love him as a guy. He's a good man, and we're still friends. He came and I don't know if he saw any of the show. I didn't get to see his show on this cruise yet, and I don't know that he got to see me. But we played a few months ago in Hawaii, where he lives, and he came out and saw us play there. He's just a good friend.
Hi, my name is Dave. I'm from 2500 Orland Park, Illinois, and I'd like a follow-up on this Liv story. That sounds interesting. But I'll segue that into a two-part question. One, it blows my mind when all these musicians on this cruise, they were so young when they started. That's what blows my mind. Mm-hmm. So my question is if you really were 17 when you were doing Hang on Sloopy, how old were you when you started playing?
Well, I started at 9. That's what I said. 1956, I got my first guitar. I was 9 years old, and I quickly convinced my brother, to play drums so that we could almost have a band. And then my neighbor said, if I get a bass guitar, would you teach me how to play bass guitar? And I said, I didn't know how to play bass guitar. But I said, sure, I'll just show you how to play that thing. And he actually came through. He came through with a bass guitar. And we sat down, and I had to show him how to play a song. And so I went, well, he doesn't know how to play, and I don't know how to play bass. So let's find the easiest song I could find. And in those days, Walk Don't Run by the Ventures was a big hit. And I had a Walk Don't Run, their album. And on the album, I found a song called The McCoy. And I showed him how to play that song. And the three of us played that song, drums, guitar, and bass, for the first time, and we went, wow, we're a band. This sounds like a band. And if we called ourselves the McCoys, we'd have a theme song. That's great. So that's how we became the McCoys, actually.
Just one other question. What band, what song knocked Hang On Sloopy off the charts? Not off the charts, but
Yesterday.
on the first.
Yesterday. And as a matter of fact, I was on tour with Ringo, and I'd go out first couple shows and say that. I'd say, you know, we were number one while Yesterday was number two. And then about the third show, Rhodey or somebody came back and said, Rick, did you talk to Ringo about that? Telling him, you know, that story? I said, no. He said, well, you should. You should talk to him. So I went back and scheduled a meeting with Ringo. And I said, Ringo, you know, I'm telling that story every night. Is that okay with you? And Ringo said, I didn't play on either of them. So I guess it was okay. That was his response.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rick, Jim from Chicago. I am a Derringer freak, man. Fellow guitar player, gearhead. You're one of the few artists I have everything you've ever done, man. I mean, it's just a blessing to be here, to see you play. I have first a technical question. Most of the cats playing are using backline gear. I see you brought your own head.
Yeah.
Your tone is absolutely off the chart, man. You are kicking ass and taking names. And that, when you were playing a custom guitar too, is that a Warrior?
That's a Warrior.
Yeah,
Warrior
just
guitar.
I
I
like
played
the
them for about
Explorer,
almost 20 years probably now.
Yeah,
They're
just-
custom-made, handmade instruments out of Rossville, Georgia. If you want a good guitar, a really good guitar, they know how to build a good guitar.
Oh, yeah.
One-piece bodies, old wood, air-dried, Stradivarius glue, all the right stuff. They make great guitars and great basses.
Yeah, you were killing me, man.
And
Well,
the
you're
amp,
killing everybody.
that's a Dumble style amp. I can't afford a real Dumble at this point in time. They cost, the cheapest
Yeah,
one I
right,
saw
right,
recently
right.
was about 50 grand for a head.
Right.
About 50 grand for a head. And you might get it and it might be beat to crap, you know, you don't even know.
Well, what is
it's
that, a
gonna be
blue
like.
tone or a
So that's a
tuba?
Syria tone.
Oh.
And Syria tone, because I've tried a lot of the Dumble copies. I went to Alexander Dumble's house. In order to get Alexander Dumble to build you an amp, you have to visit him.
Yes.
That's a rule. You have to go see him, and you have to sit down and play guitar for him. And then he goes,
right.
I think I know what would be good for you, which he said to me. And I said, okay, well, that brings me to the question, how much do you think it might cost me to get you to build me one of those? He said, well, it costs me 15 or 20 grand to even build one of those things nowadays. I said, well, how much would you charge me? He said, I just said. Well, is it 15 or is it 20? Well, he said, I can rebuild a Marshall 800 for 10 or 15.
Yeah.
Well, is it 10 or is it 15? So over the years, I've kept in contact with him to see if, are you ready to build me an amp yet? And recently he recommended another version of something that he's making. He said, it's very big with the guys in Hollywood. They love this one. I said, well, okay, make me one of those. I'm making 3 kind of tweed amps for a band in England right now, so I don't know, because my lab has to be climate controlled in order to make these things. And so I went, Seriatone, how much will you charge me? $1,300.
Yeah,
So
I
that sound, that Dumble sound, is Seriatone.
They just kill it. Just lastly, when you were doing Still Alive and Well, you changed the lyrics.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'm a believer as well. Can you maybe?
Well,
talk about that?
here it is. I was brought up a Catholic, and at some point became kind of just a Bible reading, Jesus following, straight ahead, whatever they call that, a Christian. But sometimes you don't even want to call them Christians because you don't know who you're dealing with there either. So I asked my pastor. I said, people call what I do the tool of the devil. Should I continue doing this? And the pastor told me, he said, well, you actually have the opportunity to be a double agent for the Lord, working behind the enemy lines. Working behind the enemy lines. So if I went to this promoter that booked this cruise and said, I'm going to go out there in the first song and say, Jesus Christ has risen up to heaven from the grave and he's still alive, and well, the promoter would probably say, I don't know, maybe you should do that. So I don't tell them, and I just do that lyric, and everything's cool. I'm doing what I do. I'm a double agent for the Lord behind the enemy lines.
And just lastly, thank you for giving up your life for us.
Oh.
It is really fantastic.
Oh, no, it's not just for you. That's one thing I want to explain. What I do sends me to you.
Yes.
Music is a language unto itself. But it is a language. All other languages you can lie. You know, music, you can't lie. So you can go to any country of the world. You don't have to speak their language, but you play your music, and if they receive it and respond, well, you've set your heart to them. And so that's what music is.
May you share in the happiness you bring to others, man.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Chris from Croton-on-Hudson, New York.
How you doing?
All right, good to see you. I'm a great admirer of your guitar work and also your producer's ear. You have the best ear. You just know what works in a song. You always have. Two questions. How is it that you ended up playing on the Nightfly, Donald Fagen album?
We didn't talk about
truly,
that. Sometimes I tell that in a little storybook thing. I forgot.
And my other question is, how did you find this killer rhythm section in time to play on
That
this
I got
story?
now.
Those guys are great.
We'll talk about both those. Nightfly. I knew a producer in New York, Gary Katz was his name, and he called me up one day and he said, I've got this piano player that used to play with Jay and the Americans, and I'm thinking about doing a demo with him to see if we can get him a record deal. Well, I said, sure, let's go do it. And so I came in to play on the demo, and it turned out that piano player was Don